sales is the most lucrative skill in the world, period. The problem is most sales advice out there today is outdated, cheesy, and can even keep you from getting the deals that can make all the difference in your career. This is the No BS Sales School, a podcast for entrepreneurs and salespeople who want to master the skill of selling without all the BS. Welcome to the No BS Sales School podcast. I'm your host, Walker McKay. Today, I'm really excited to have as a guest, Erin Carlson, and she helps teams with everything connected to hiring, retaining, and training. Erin's coming to us from Tampa, Florida. And the reason that I brought her on the show today, and the reason I want you to listen, is Erin is a recruiter, right? And so she knows what's going on in the marketplace, and she's going to share with us some ideas, some things she's doing to recruit people. As we know, the great resignation where nobody's working anymore. Well, Erin kind of has some real good insight to that. So we're going to talk about that and more. So Erin, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Happy to be here, Walker.
Thank you. I'm so glad you are. And I met Erin through, how did I meet you? Who introduced us? Lindsay Steeman, former guest, friend, and great LinkedIn expert, introduced us. So Erin, tell me something. You are now working for your own company, ERC Strategies.
Yep.
Take 2 minutes and tell me how you got there. What's your story?
Sure. Well, the quick story is I was a corporate recruiter for many years and worked in all aspects of sort of levels of hiring within large organizations, primarily in the financial services industry. And
let me stop you for a second, Erin. So where'd you go to college? And did you always want to be a recruiter when you grew up?
Oh, I love it. We'll even start before. So
yes.
I went to school at Florida State.
Yep.
And studied communication.
Okay.
No, I did not know I wanted to be a recruiter. In fact, I actually didn't even know that the recruiting world as an occupation existed.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah. And I'll pigeonhole myself a little bit and say that the only thing that I connected recruiting to at that point in my life was what I had experienced in Greek life recruiting. I was a big part of the Greek life community at Florida State. And
what sorority were you in?
I was Alpha Delta Pi.
80 Pi, good.
Yeah,
yes.
I was an 80 Pi. And so I knew recruitment to be connected to bringing a sloth of new provisionals in on an annual basis through Greek life. So no, I had no idea what recruiting was and that it was even a career pathway.
Yep.
Whoops, just lost my headphone. Sorry, guys. Lost my headphone.
We're a professional
that's what happens when we're hand talkers.
Professional outfit here, man. Don't worry. Okay,
talkers, good. Snag it out. And so, just was introduced through a family friend to a career opportunity with a company I ended up working for in a few different places across the country for about 10 years. And became a campus recruiter as my kind of first role in the recruiting world. And Walker, I think I shared this with you the first time we talked. They told me, we'd love to pay you to go hang out on college campuses and talk to students about our internship and career opportunities with the company. How does that sound? And I said, where do I sign?
Holy shit. How do I sign up for that? That sounds great, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And so I did. That just kind of began the long trajectory of over 15 years of experience in corporate recruiting positions for me until I decided to roll out my own company.
Let me stop for a second. There's either a hook or an event or something that happens that makes you say, you know what? And oftentimes it's, fuck it, I'm going to go on my own. What was the hook or the event that caused you to say that?
Yeah, great question. Two things. One, I saw in the organization that I was in, that I transitioned out of, I saw a lot of other people in my role rolling into consulting careers. So I saw that the career path was an option.
Yep.
But the driving force for what was attractive to me about it was that I felt like I could have more exponential impact in a consulting and advisory type role than what I was doing just working for one organization. So I felt like I could help more people with my expertise by doing it for more than just one firm and one company out there.
So how long you been on your own? How long you been on your own?
Almost 6 years.
Wow. So
I'll be 6 years in May.
what surprised you the most about running your own shop? I mean, I'm sitting here and same kind of deal, right? We're running our own shop. What surprised you the most about doing this?
That's a really good question. You know, I wouldn't even say like the stereotypical, like it's more work than you think, or it's harder than you think. I think I'd maybe say that I'm enjoying it more than I even thought I would.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree with you, right? You can make it. I mean, it's, and a lot of people say, I don't know. I was a little bit arrogant, I guess. This is harder than I thought it would be, and also more fun than I thought it would be.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Same thing.
Yeah. And I think, I think you sort of psych yourself up to knowing that it's going to be difficult. And a lot of my career, I recruited people to very entrepreneurial type careers. I recruited a lot in the financial advising space. So I was bringing people into a career where they were essentially starting their own business in some ways as well. So I think the exposure to that and identifying talent in that type of role helped me to see what that would look like. So maybe the fear or trepidation that some people have in that didn't feel the same for me. Not that there weren't still things that were scary or risky. But I had seen some of that a little bit more.
Do you come from an entrepreneurial family?
I don't necessarily, but parents were in leadership roles in careers. So while it wasn't necessarily entrepreneurial to a T, I think I saw a lot of ownership of role and leadership and management and kind of managing what would look like an entrepreneurial experience. Yeah.
So what the hell is what do you think of the Great Resignation?
Well, it's a fun thing to say, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Depending on what side of the table you're on.
Right.
Yeah. It's obviously a hot topic, and there are various different ways people describe it. I think it's really fascinating for me to hear the difference in ways people communicate it if they're a client, an employer that I partner with versus a candidate.
Give me examples of that.
Yeah. So I think candidates or people in the workforce that are taking the opportunity to participate in the Great Resignation have seen it as eye-opening and sort of like reprioritization in life and a huge benefit.
Yeah. So are they getting in the gig economy, a lot of them? Or are they just freaking saying to hell with it, I'm not working for a period of time?
That's a good question. I think that the perception is that people are just choosing not to work, but that's not my experience when I talk to candidates. I think that they are taking time to say, what do I really want? What is most important for me in life? And what career will align with what I want to do personally and professionally? And so what I'm seeing most, Walker, is career pivoting. I don't think I'm seeing this resignation as in like, I'm not ever going to go back to work. I think certain industries obviously were really hit in a way where there was a period of time where people weren't working, like hospitality and restaurant business and travel and leisure and things like that. But I'm seeing pivoting. I'm seeing candidates really trying to identify, well, what do I want to do? Am I burnt out in what I'm doing? Am I not fulfilled and not happy? And where can I be more fulfilled? So then if there are people that are out of the workforce for a period of time, I think they're going back to get different credentials or certifications to make themselves more attractive to the industries that they want to work in.
One of the things that I read was, you read about the savings rate in the United States because of the damn Federal Reserve and the low interest rates, whatever, that people mostly living paycheck to paycheck, like 80% of the population are living paycheck to paycheck. How in the shit do people participate in the Great Resignation? Is it just the 20% that can afford to do this they're doing? I mean, how the hell does that work?
I don't know. That's a really good question. I mean, I think every candidate situation is unique, right? It is a little jarring when you see those statistics, right? Like I forget if it's like 75 or 80% of the population has like less than 1 month of savings. And so the dichotomy in that I think is a little jarring. I don't know the answer to that. I think every candidate's situation is unique. I think there are some people that, depending on age and stage of life, maybe they've got, family to lean back on for a period of time, or maybe they're getting severance, or, they're getting, some type of payment while their company is figuring out what the long-term haul is going to look like. Yeah, I don't know.
So are you finding right now when you're recruiting candidates, are you finding them on LinkedIn? Is that your main source?
It's kind of a combination. So LinkedIn is a great tool for identifying talent. A lot of the work that I do, which is probably pretty typical of most recruiting, staffing, headhunting partners that clients would work with, is leveraging tools like LinkedIn, also resume databases. So Indeed is a great tool for that.
Okay.
You know, you've got kind of the passive way of identifying talent, which is a terminology that recruiting uses a lot is post and pray. You post the job, you wait for people to come. Yeah, that's kind of a little recruiting lingo.
Yes.
But where I tend to find most of my clients, the candidates that are the best fit for the roles that they're looking to fill, we're going after the talent. So they are not necessarily looking to make a change, but they might be open to a conversation. LinkedIn's got some phenomenal statistics on an annual basis that they share around just like the span of the workforce that is either actively seeking versus open to a conversation. I don't know what their current percentages are, but I've heard it 60 to 70% are in some phase or in some spread of the general open to a conversation for a career. So I'm not applying to jobs. I'm not necessarily looking, but if somebody reached me at the right time, I'd talk to you.
That's interesting because one of the things I talk to my clients about a lot is that we call it the 5-20 rule, which is 5% of your prospects are out there right now looking for something that you do. 5% are looking for that right now. 20% would be open to it if you had a compelling thing, right? That they don't know what they don't know if you had a compelling thing. Yeah. And what I tell people is the 5% are probably your worst bet. Why do you think that is? You know why that is?
No, I don't.
Because the 5%, if they're already out there looking, they've already done their research, they're on the internet, they've done all this stuff, they've figured out what they want, how this works, whether it's right or wrong. My contention most of the time is that people don't know how to buy what it is that we sell. So those that are out there trying to do it on their own or to figure it out end up not being great. They end up being price shoppers often. But anyway, so the 20% is a much better.
A definition, or they just have what they think is the definition of what that service should provide when it's
bingo.
May
not be the same.
Great point.
So how has your business changed in the last, call it 2 years?
Yeah, I will say, I'm incredibly lucky that my business has grown substantially. I think in large part, my recruiting game didn't stop the way that other recruiters did, in large part because of the industry that I partner with. So the financial services, the wealth management space, they were already trending in this direction of virtual work and engagement with clients anyway. So I think it fast-tracked that, and they continue to be able to do their work really largely unchanged. And I also think the markets that they work in, you know, people with discretionary income and the ability to plan were still in that place to do so. Again, a lot of fortune, I think, connected to those things. And so me being in that industry, sort of right place, right time, and just right expertise, my business grew. I mean, I had to turn away business at certain points because I just only had so much capacity.
How has your approach had to change? Has your approach had to, when you're calling on candidates, have you changed your approach at all, or is it still just the same?
Yeah, I think the speed with which things are happening, it's like it was like whiplash for the last probably 18 to 24 months. We had this cataclysmic drop off in the search industry. And so I will say, spring of 2020, nobody knew what to do. So everybody was just kind of frozen, candidates and companies.
Yeah, world's going to end.
So there definitely, there was a period of time where there was no movement for anyone because everybody was just afraid to make the first move. So then we had a major drop off in a lot of industries on opportunities, right? There were almost no jobs to be had.
Nobody's going to hire because we're not going to be alive.
Yeah. And then fast forward 2021, in the spring of 2021, all of a sudden, tons of opportunity existed, but then candidates still had kind of some time to slow through, thinking through, they had some government stipend to use and kind of figure out what their next step was if they weren't.
They're waiting on microchips like all the car dealers are, right?
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. But I think also candidates where they were settled in roles also felt like there was security in that position. So maybe their interest in moving they were a little more tentative.
Got it.
And it all happened so fast. Like traditionally, as much time as I spent working in the workplace and the workforce market, you don't see those trends happen so fast, right? Even in 2007, 8 and recession times, you didn't see it drop. I didn't experience that to that level that fast and then to spring back up.
Yeah.
So now 2022 and kind of the end of 2021, it is what I would say is the recruiter's version of a buyer's market. It's a candidate driven market. They have their choice and opportunities. They're typically entertaining multiple offers. And so companies have to move fast and they have to be prepared to give kind of like their first and best, right?
So what kind of pep talk? Because obviously you're managing your clients' expectations, right? You've got to do that because you can waste a ton of freaking time with people going, well, Absolutely. I don't know, let's see 4 more.
Yeah.
Which is traditionally what happens in that damn business, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. What other stone could be unturned a little bit farther down the road? It's funny. I talk with clients about this a lot. The reality is, just like when you're buying a house, there could always be a better, more affordable candidate.
100%.
Into infinity, right? So at a certain point, and also job descriptions, by the way, are definitely important and a means to an end.
Yes.
But what we craft in a job description is the 100% most ideal candidate. And very rarely are we literally hiring somebody that checks every single box.
Interesting.
Now there are exceptions to that, but it's, and I also joke that if there's somebody that literally checks every box and is the right culture fit and everything else, we kind of like maybe should be a little scared. Like
they're probably psychotic. They're freaking psychopath.
Under the hood that we don't know. Joking, obviously, but yeah. So I think at a certain point,
I get it.
We have to be able to identify.
It's like the crazy hot matrix, right?
Yeah. Yes. It's exactly like the crazy hot matrix. Yeah, there's probably a recruiting version of the crazy hot matrix out there somewhere. So I think setting expectations, you asked, how do I walk my clients through that? Setting expectations and just being a truth teller, right? Helping them to understand that, like, look, we have to move quickly. Here's what the market is looking like. Here's what the salary ranges are looking like. Here's where we got to move. I'm pretty careful to never tell a client who they should hire, because that's honestly not my job.
Right.
It's not my job. It's my job to give you access to the candidates that I think fit your profile of what you're looking for best. And then for us to make a targeted decision based on all the factors that we're looking at.
And you do paid search, right? I mean, somebody hires you, they write you a check. And so you're already, you are aligned, your interests are aligned with your customer, the corporate client.
Of course. Yep.
Okay.
But it does have to be a fit for both, right? I mean, it's not, you said at the beginning, focusing on hiring, training, and retaining. I'm not really interested in placing someone for my clients that's not going to be there in 90 days. That's just not, our approach is more targeted. It's a bit more thorough. We utilize assessments. We talk about culture or team fit. I think fit is kind of my preferred word over culture.
Yes, I agree.
Is fit right? Is the candidate what you're looking for? Is that the right fit in that candidate? Are you the right fit for them? And none of this we know with complete certainty, right? There's some of this that we have to just trust and sort of take the leap of faith that they're going to be the right fit. But there are things that we can do in the questions that we ask and in the assessments that we use and the conversations that we have that identify if they're going to align with what you're looking for in the role. Can they do the job? Do they have the right skill set? Do they like that job? And then are they the right fit for your team and expectations for how you do business?
Right. So I am certain, Erin, and this is not a bad reflection of you, but I am certain that you have made a mistake. Hired I know you don't recommend who they should hire, but put the wrong candidate, you put a candidate in front of somebody and they turn out to be a freaking disaster. Do you have a story to share there?
I'll tell you, I've only had this happen like a couple times since I've been doing my own business. Yeah. I don't even know that it was necessarily a specific, like a wild story, as much as it was maybe expectations were not clear between the candidate and the employer.
Right.
And it really wasn't one person's fault. But this client that I worked with, I still continued to hire for. So we had, continued to have a great relationship. But one of the things that we did to change or enhance the process so that that wouldn't happen again is for the conversation around what they expect of the candidate and what the candidate should expect of them. We were really intentional about making sure that when the client went to meet the candidate, that they had a clear conversation about expectations.
Good.
So down to the point of, hey, tell me what your work style is like, Mr. or Mrs. Candidate. How do you like to communicate best? How do you like to be managed? And making sure that we're having that conversation with the candidate prior to us sharing how the manager or the hiring person likes to do those things.
So are you asking those questions or is your client asking those questions?
Both. And I think it tends to happen a little bit more thoroughly the later we are in the process. But I think that's a really critical discussion to have because if you get somebody that comes in to the conversation and says, I don't like, I really need to be told what to do and when to do it. I need explicit instruction. And I just don't really do well with like uncertainty or changing priorities. Oof. And you've got a business owner, and maybe the candidate doesn't articulate it that way, but you've got a business owner. Yeah, you've got a business owner that they want somebody that is highly autonomous, has the ability to work independently, and can kind of just go and do. That's not going to be the right fit. Right. That's not going to align.
I have a funny story. I had a business partner years ago, and we were both just kind of hard charging, fast paced, doing a bunch of things. And we hired a lady to run our office, and she was awesome. She would get things, she just do and do and do. And, but she got more and more frustrated do you use a disc profile by any chance, Erin?
I've used it before. I don't currently use it.
So anyway, we used a disc profile, but apparently we didn't look at it. We, on the disc profile, my business partner and I were both D's, right? We want to get stuff done, get it done, get it done, get it done. And she was an S, which means she like system, process, sameness. And so we were just going, put stuff on her desk and just to do this, take care of this, have this done by next month, do this by next week, get this done.
She had no systems.
Well, because we kept disrupting, right? And so disrupting, and she did not understand. I mean, in her mind, everything was a priority right now. She's really smart. But one day, I remember it was Good Friday of Easter, probably 10 or 12 years ago. Mm-hmm. And I got a text and by the way, this woman was a grandmother. She was probably 50 at the time. Very sweet, very nice. I got a text from her when I was at church on Good Friday saying, "Fuck you, I quit," via text. I was like, what? And then she said, "Keys are on the desk." I was like, oh my God. And the thing about an S is that they will take it and take it and take it and take it until they explode, until they say, "Fuck you, I quit." And so it's funny. I called her and she was very upset. And I said, "I'm so sorry." And anyway, she left. It was the right thing. And she was mad at me, but I have referred her. I have given her reference to 2 other jobs. We are friends again. I've always loved her. But she just was in the wrong place. We hired the wrong person. It was our fault. Yeah. And so it is a big deal. Right. To ask those questions.
And how long was she with you?
2 years.
So one of the things that I think is really helpful too, that I advise clients to do is make sure that you're having regular touch points where you can give and get feedback.
Yes.
So early on, I think having a 90-day review conversation, I actually advise clients to put it in the calendar and put it on the calendar of the person you're hiring so that it's an accountability to you and to them that you're going to have this conversation. And again, it's a two-way street, right? This is like the finesse of like keeping the relationship, solid in a marriage. It's silly to compare, but I think it's really true.
No.
There's a constant kind of re-upping and re-engaging and assessing how are things going for you. Here's what I'm observing. Here's what you're doing well. Here's where I feel like you're not meeting the mark. And for them to give some of that feedback appropriately, right, in a manage relationship. But I think setting those expectations on the front end are a lot easier.
Huge.
Especially if the candidate isn't going to work out. it's not such a scary conversation to have, because you can go back in that 90 days and say, hey, remember when we interviewed together and I told you that like the 3 most important things and what I was looking for is someone who was highly proactive, great follow through, and took initiative.
Yeah.
And I'm not seeing any of those 3 things happen. Help me understand what's going on. That person's probably going to be like, thank God somebody's saying it. This isn't working for me
right.
either. So
that's really great. And I love what you just said about the 3 most important things, right? It's important to lay those things out there. And I think it's important that both the candidate and the company do you ask people to do that 3 most important things for your business, or do you just make that up?
No. Yeah, no, we talked.
I didn't know if I brought that brilliance out on you just from being on the podcast, or if that was standard shit you brought to the table anyway.
Well, when I onboard a new client, we actually have a really thorough discussion around what they're looking for. I'll tell you, working with business owners, it's one of the things that I see as the biggest gap. Yep. They think what they need is a marketing coordinator, but then we have a 30-minute discussion, and what we've really identified they need is an executive assistant.
Right.
And so the dichotomy between those 2 things, right? What are the 3 to 5 most important things that this person will own in their job? What are the most important characteristics and what you're looking for? What are non-negotiables or things that are not going to fit in what you're hiring for? So clarity for the client in what they're looking for helps us to be clear on what the role is and what it isn't, and then to find the right person for that role. So
I think what you have displayed too is expertise and a willingness to challenge your clients to be specific, right? Yeah. Because a lot of people, fly in fast and we got to have this, we got to have that, and without thinking about it. And it is your job as a professional to slow them down and make them get this. First of all, I would like to, I wrote down, I love your vocabulary. I was an English major until I got an F in English in college and I switched to history. But I'm a big vocab guy. You dropped a couple of big words on this. Dichotomy. You just drop that like nothing. And cataclysmic. I mean, that shit is good. So keep that up.
That was the best way to describe that.
I like it. No, you're absolutely right. So I've learned a bunch today. I love what you talked about. That so many candidates are out there that would be open to a job change if they got the right offer.
Yep.
And so sometimes it takes more than just posting an ad and seeing who raises their hand. Yep. It does take a proactive effort to go find the right ones. It's that 20%, right? That would be great, but they're not out there. They're not there hunting specifically, but they may be open to something more compelling. Mm-hmm. Erin, how would somebody find you if they said, daggum, I need somebody like Erin in my life to help me with my business? Where would somebody find you?
Yeah, a couple of places. I've got a website, just the business name, www.ercstrategies.com. And I am on LinkedIn as Erin Ritchie Carlson. That's Ritchie with an EY. And also on Instagram as Erin R. Carlson. All those spots will be
perfect. Great. That's great. Well, I would encourage No BS Sales Team. I encourage you, if you are wondering how in the world am I going to hire staff? Who's a recruiter? How in the hell do I do this? I encourage you to reach out to Erin. She's a pro and she's fun. And I think she'll do a great job. All right. I'm offering you listeners for listening through this whole podcast. Your gift for listening to this whole podcast is access to my free mini course called 7 Sales Mistakes and What You Can Do About Them. Here's where you find it, www.7salesmistakes.com. www.7salesmistakes.com. Download my free mini course, learn something from it. Love to know what it is that you learn. It's fun when people email me and say, hey man, thanks, I enjoyed that. Here's what I learned. Do that. And if you want to have a further conversation with me, you know where to find me. Walker@walkermckay.com. You can look at my website, walkermckay.com. I'm all over the social medias. So Erin Carlson, thank you for being on the show. This was super fun. And I loved being here with you. So thanks. And I look forward to talking to you again. Thanks for listening to No BS Sales School Podcast. If you haven't already, please take 1 minute to write a quick review for the show. It really does make a huge difference. Also, subscribe to the show and please forward this episode to somebody else who needs to hear it. As a bonus for listening, I'm going to give you access to a free mini course, 7 expensive sales mistakes you're making and what you can do about it. Go to www.7salesmistakes.com and get access to the free mini course. That's the number 7salesmistakes.com. Thanks again for listening to the No BS Sales School Podcast.